Welcome back, explorers. I'm David, that's Wesley, and this is the Trailcast.
The weekly show that gets so far off track, you'll have to stick around to see just where we end up.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Snakes! Oh wait, sorry. That's right. Today, we're talking about Indiana Jones. Alright, David. What is this about snake? You know I hate snakes. Like, I really, really hate snakes.
Well, there's someone else who hates snakes too, Wesley. Because today we're talking about Indiana Jones.
Okay. Well, it wasn't too long ago, a week or two ago, I actually watched The Last Crusade, so I am mostly prepared for this. Not entirely, but mostly. Wait.
Yeah, let's start. You said
It was actually it was the Raiders of the Lost Ark, sorry, not Last Crusade.
okay.
Last Crusade is a really good movie, though.
I actually watched Last Crusade earlier today. Because it had been longer since I'd seen that one than the other ones.
It's been a while since I've seen that one, but like from what I remember, I think I remember that one being my favorite.
Let's actually talk about that for now. So, for me, it's kind of hard because, okay, to pick a favorite, or for my favorites list, it's between Raiders and Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
I think Last Crusade is my favorite, but Raiders is still a really good movie.
That's because Temple of Doom was just kind of it strayed away from the way the first one was, and with the second one they came back to it. Now I'm not saying Temple of Doom is bad. I'm just saying it has a much darker tone. It's it kind of approaches the Indiana Jones in a different way. So it's a little bit different of a movie, and I feel like for a lot of people it's either that's like their absolute favorite one, or it's like tied between Raiders and Crusade.
Mm. Which, honestly, you could watch Raiders and then Last Crusade, and it would flow pretty well, because, Temple of Doom is a prequel. Because I think Temple of Doom is supposed to take place like a year before Raiders.
If I can remember, I was watching it earlier this afternoon, so I well, not the movie, but some stuff on Indiana Jones. And if I remember right, I believe Temple of Doom takes place in 1935. Raiders takes place in 1936. And then Last Crusade is supposed to take place in either 1937 or 38.
I think it's 2 years. I think it's 2 years later. I think
38. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then jumping ahead a little bit, if we probably should, if we're going to talk about anything to do with the Dial of Destiny. The Crystal Skull takes place in the 50s, and then the new movie's supposed to. Well, I'm just time framing everything.
Yeah.
Not necessarily skipping around to it. And I think the newest one is supposed to take place sometime in the 60s, because it's supposed to take place around the Soviet stuff going on. So that's like it's in space race. So that's like late 60s, maybe the early 70s.
Mm-hmm. But let's not get too much into the later ones yet. We'll get into those a little bit later on the podcast. Let's just start.
Well, it's just one of those things where the Indiana Jones franchise is kind of a little bit all over the place, because you had Raiders and then you had Temple of Doom, which was a prequel, and then you went to The Last Crusade, which started off with Indy as a young boy, and then it jumped over to late after all the second two movies, and so it's kind of all over the place, and you kind of have to pay attention to make sure what happens where.
Well, And then you also had
and just
had a
kind of
big real life time gap between the first three, which were made in the I think Last Crusade came out in '89, and then Crystal Skull came out in
early
I don't
2000s,
remember.
right?
I think it was around 2010.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
If I had to guess, I'd say around 2010, but I actually don't remember.
If my browser will pull up. I could pull it up, but I'm
I'm
assuming you're
googling it
pulling
right
it up.
now.
My computer does not seem to want to work, and I don't want to push it because we've had problems with this stuff before. No need
Okay, so yes,
to.
it was 2008. Yeah, Crystal Skull came out in 2008.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that all in mind, like you've been saying, let's maybe dive into the Raiders of the Lost Ark to start, because that was the movie that started off everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know this, but so Raiders of the Lost Ark was a Lucasfilm. Lucas made it. Right, he I think from what I heard had been thinking about the character for a while and thinking of writing the movie during the writings of A New Hope and I think even Empire Strikes Back. But when Raiders came out, it broke box office records. And was I think the third highest grossing film, or third or fourth. It might have been the fourth, but it was within the likes of movies like A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and I believe at the time I think it was what is it? The Encounters of the Third Kind. What's Steven Spielberg's
Strange Encounters of the Third Kind, yeah.
Yeah, that one. I think those were like four movies that were around the same. And if you look at it, like that's two of Lucasfilm's movies, and three, including Raiders, three of Spielberg's that he directed. So it's like, they really were dominating the market at that point in time, and basically just they couldn't miss when they were making movies. Like, they were just dominating the box office.
And let's just say this too, like when Spielberg and Lucas kind of collaborated on projects, they made good movies. Like, I know he didn't directly direct any of the Star Wars movies, but Spielberg had a lot of input. He was a consultant on a lot of the Star Wars stuff too. So
yeah,
and I actually have that pulled up for Raiders right here. Raiders made $389.9 million at the box office.
Mm-hmm. And I think
back in 1981, that was a lot of
50.
20
they
million.
only had a budget of 50 or 20 million. Okay, I knew. Yeah,
I have it right up there.
I knew it was small because I mean it was in the 70s, late 80s.
81.
Early 80s. I mean, 81.
Came out in 1981. Yeah. So production was late 70s.
Yeah.
And actually, this podcast episode is actually going up on the anniversary of Raiders. Because Raiders released on June 12th, 1981.
We are on point here. We weren't even supposed to be talking about Indiana Jones this week, and here we are talking about it. And the podcast
we reshuffled our schedule, and I just looked at them like, that's perfect.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's perfect timing. We need to advertise it like that. Be like, hey, this is in honor of Indiana Jones. The series, just the character of Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. So, with all that in mind, I guess let's dive into the movie, and I guess talk about that briefly. As we discussed, this takes place in 1936, and basically the point of the movie is that Indiana Jones has to stop the Nazis from finding the Ark of the Covenant.
And like you said, I know I've heard a lot of people point this out before too. I think you mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Like technically, if you really think about it, Indiana Jones didn't really affect the plot of the story, or didn't really affect the story that
Hmm.
much. He was just there.
I really think that the only thing about the movie and the only part about it that would be bad if this movie were to not have Indiana Jones in it, not if those events were to happen without Indiana Jones being a part of it. The only thing I think that would happen bad is that what was her name, Marion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The girl, she would have died.
Yep.
She just would have died because the Nazis would have killed her in finding the amulet. But see, the thing is, like the way the events would have played out would have been different, but the end result would have been the same. Like, yeah, the Nazis, yes, they would have gotten the amulet, and yes, they would have seen the backside of it, which they didn't have in the first half in the original draft of the movie, or in the final draft of the movie, I guess is what it is. But they didn't have the back of it, but in this they would be, and they would have killed Marion. They would have taken that. They would have found the Ark, gotten to it a lot quicker, and
And the same thing would have happened.
and the same thing would have happened. Indiana Jones wouldn't have been there. Now I did hear someone say that it actually might have been better if Indiana Jones wasn't there because what would have happened might have been the Nazis who were there to begin with would have gone in, opened the Ark of the Covenant, and been like, "Hey, they're all dead. Let's go take another wave of people back there," and it would like slowly just started killing off the Nazis because they keep going back to try to figure it out. I don't know if that necessarily would happen, but all in all, like if you look at the movie, as good of a movie as it is, if you take Indiana Jones out of it, the end result does not change because it's the Ark of the Covenant. Like we were talking about it, like when I watched it a couple weeks ago, I mentioned it on the podcast. We talked about it a little bit. And the logic of the movie doesn't really what they say and what actually happens in the movie don't hold up because at the beginning of the movie they say they have to stop the Nazis because any army that has the Ark of the Covenant is unstoppable. When in truth, it's only if they're on God's side or not. It would be the way if that they would have be unstoppable, which shows true at the end of the movie. They can't just, mess around with the Ark as they please because it's, a supernatural power and it's not in their favor. So they end up dying. Which, would have happened whether Indiana Jones was there or not. So.
Mm. Now, but aside from that, like, Indiana Jones, like, I don't think really any of them have, like, super intricate plots. Because they're really just fun action movies.
Well, maybe not Temple of Doom, but
yeah. But like I said, even though Raiders doesn't, if you break it down too much, you can say that. But still, it's still a really fun movie to watch.
mm-hmm.
I think.
Oh yeah, it is.
I think pretty much all of them are fun, or like at least fun movies to watch, whether or not the story holds up too much. But
Yeah. Well, in the second one, we talk about The Last Crusade, you can walk through more of the storyline with that because I haven't really I haven't watched it in a while, and I didn't really watch too much of a synopsis of anything today. However, if we move on to Temple of Doom, I do have some thoughts on that one. I don't know what else you have to say about Last Crusade. I mean, it was a good movie, and it kicked off the franchise, but like most starters to a franchise like this, they tend to be pretty generic storylines. Still good, like you said, it's a fun movie to watch, but there's not a whole lot to say without diving like really, really deep into the plot.
Mm. Now, that is one thing I want to with Temple of Doom. I do think that is the weakest of the original trilogy.
Oh yeah,
but
I would
I
agree
still
with that. For those of you who it's your favorite, we're not knocking it. It's to each their own. It's
well,
just not our favorite.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying it's my least favorite of the original three.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I would agree with that. I think a lot of my reasoning for not liking it as much as the other ones is because when I watched Indiana Jones growing up, you know, I was a little younger, and some of the darker tones and darker scenes in it, I didn't really care for as much. Like, they were creepy, they were scary, just stuff like that, and it just didn't sit well with me as a kid or whatever. And so now maybe I would look at it in a new light, but I never really
it
liked
almost
those.
feels yeah.
Go ahead.
It almost feels like they were experimenting a little bit with more like horror-esque. Like, it's obviously not horror, but more horror, like some more of the gore and stuff that you see in more of the just the creepy vibes you get from some of it.
When George Lucas brought the idea of a second movie to Steven Spielberg, from what I heard, apparently he was wanting to do a haunted castle, which he brought that idea to Spielberg for Temple of Doom, and Spielberg said no. And he again brought that idea in some way, shape, or form when they were trying to do Last Crusade, I believe, and he also said no then too. But I feel like it was definitely one of those things where they're like, hey, let's try and go with a little bit darker. Let's not play it safe. Like, hey, we got the character of Indiana Jones. We might have played it a little safe in the first movie, but let's go a little darker with how we tell this story in the Temple of Doom. And they definitely did that. I mean, it is a darker movie. I mean, even if you just look at the plot line of it, like child slavery, a cult that rips that practices like essentially, I guess, like some form of like black magic. They rip hearts out of people. Just a bunch of like human sacrifices, like all those things. Those are very, very dark tones, and they're not even completely like child slavery, cults practicing stuff like that. That's some real world stuff that happens, and they bring it and they put it in a movie, and so it does bring some darker tones to the Indiana Jones franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But they also do that in the first one when they basically imply that Indiana Jones had an underage thing going on with Mary, which we shouldn't dive into too much.
Yeah, let's move on from that.
Indy's not exactly a great guy.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like, you don't you get a little bit more with. I'm going to use Han Solo just because it's another Harrison Ford character. But Indiana Jones really doesn't have like much character arc over the trilogy. No. I mean, he's kind of the same that he was in the beginning. He does have some, but like you compare it to a character like Han Solo, like Indy's not as bad as Han Solo was originally, but he doesn't end up as good as Han Solo does at the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a very stagnant time. There might be a lot more character development in like The Last Crusade, which you can speak on that, whether there is or isn't. I would assume, just with, what I remember of the movie, like it's a father-son-esque kind of drama. So, there's probably a little bit of development with that, being that he doesn't really care for his dad starting out. And they, come to better terms at the end of the movie. So there is some character development there. But overall, like as an actual character, yeah, Indiana Jones doesn't have a whole lot of character development throughout the series. And, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously, like we said, like, Raiders was a pretty fun movie to watch. very little character development. Temple of Doom is not a bad movie, but he had very little character development. So, I guess at this point it is what it is.
Yeah. I kind of want to see how it would flow, because I don't think I've ever watched it in chronological order. Like, watched Temple of Doom, then Raiders, then Last Crusade. I'm kind of curious to see how that would flow now.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, sometimes like, I've gone back and watched movies, movies before, and sometimes watching like the original and the sequel back to back, or the prequel and the original back to back, gives like new light to one or the other. Like, makes me appreciate one of them more. I don't know if that would be how that would work or not, but I'd be kind of curious to do that and see how that works. I mean,
yeah,
like I said, I still think that both of them are really good movies, but
yeah. So on a completely different note, I don't think that this is any news to you. So this is more just for informational context, or just for information, for those of you who don't know. But the reason we have a PG-13 rating today is because of Temple of Doom. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Temple of Doom received a PG-13 rating, did it? But I know it's the reason we have them.
So I actually wanted to get on a side note of the ratings too. So this is the weird to me. So I have a box set of the original 3, and I was just looking at it when I was watching Last Crusade earlier. I was just looking at the back of each one. Well, I also wanted to see, because this box set is a print from 2003, so I was also kind of wanted to look up the value of it just to see if it had gone up in value or anything. Which actually this one hadn't, because this is the widescreen version. The full screen version has actually gone up in value, but the widescreen version hasn't, which is the one I have. Anyway, that's aside from the point.
Darn your luck.
So this one, I guess it was released in Canada too, because it has both ratings, the US and the Canadian rating. So Raiders is rated PG in the US and is rated 14A in Canada, which that's their equivalent of PG-13. But Temple of Doom, so like I said, the US didn't have a PG-13 equivalent back then. Because like you said, Temple of Doom was the reason for it. But Temple of Doom received a PG rating in both the US and Canada.
How'd that happen?
I don't know how the Canadian rating is like more, it's the equivalent of PG-13 for Raiders, but not for Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom, no matter like how you look at it, like is much more deserving of a PG-13 style rating than the Ark.
Yeah. But then Last Crusade got a PG-13 rating in the US, but received a PG rating in Canada.
Huh. That's weird. Now, I can't remember which one it was, but I remember that, obviously, like I said, Temple of Doom is the reason we have PG-13 ratings, even though it wasn't itself rated PG-13. What was the first PG-13 rated movie? I remember it's one that's kind of a more popular one, I think, or a common name, but I don't know if you remembered what it was.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but let me Google this.
Yeah, but I was literally listening to all this earlier today. I just can't remember what it was. It's slipping my memory.
Oh, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn?
Yeah, the first Red. I mean,
yeah.
Well, obviously the Hemsworth one was more recently, but the original.
I thought I remember it being a
1984 Red Dawn. What a year for that one to come out. because the book 1984. I know it's not like
Yeah.
I know it's not exactly. I know it's not what happened in 1984, but the book. I mean, but still.
They probably planned it all.
But yeah, Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie. We need to
It's
talk
a
about
good
those
thing to
movies.
have. I haven't seen them, but I guess if we talk
You
about
need to
them, I
watch.
will.
You need to watch both of them. The original's better, but the remake's good too.
I'll if we put it on the schedule, I guess I'll end up watching it as long as I can find it.
Well, I have both of them on DVD, so but yeah.
There you go.
So apparently Red Dawn was the first PG-13 rated movie. But anyway,
Yep.
I don't think either one of us had really that much to say about Temple of Doom. So let's move on to.
I do want to mention this though. They obviously later on casted Sean Connery, a previous James Bond actor, as Indy's dad, Henry Jones, correct?
Henry Jones Sr.
Henry Jones Sr. And Steven Spielberg had always wanted to direct James Bond movies, so the closest he got was at the beginning of Temple of Doom in the casino scene, or the wherever they're at, the lounge thing or whatever. Kind of a style take on a James Bond-esque scene within the Indiana Jones. And then, later on casting Sean Connery, I'm pretty sure that they might have had some other ideas of who they wanted to cast for it, but I think Sean Connery was one of their top picks for who they wanted to cast in the role of Indy's father, which Harrison Ford was actually not the top pick for Indiana Jones when they casted him. Which would have made a completely different. Yeah, well, the thing was, because of George Lucas working with Harrison Ford on the Star Wars films, he didn't want to work with Harrison. He didn't really wasn't jumping at the gun to work with Harrison Ford in other stuff. He didn't want to basically have it where George Lucas and Harrison Ford always work on the same projects together, kind of a deal. So he was kind of hesitant to do with Harrison Ford. The role actually was, I'm pretty sure that he got the role, but it was to Tom Selleck. But it was about the time that they gave him the role, or were going to give him the role, that he started doing his Magnum PI stuff. So then they went to Harrison Ford and said, "Hey, we want you as Indiana Jones," and then the rest is history.
I'm not gonna say he would have made a bad Indiana Jones, but
It would have
he
been
would have
different,
made
though.
a different Indiana Jones.
Yes,
Because
yes, he would have.
yeah,
I mean, you think about it. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. That he's the one that they were thinking about doing, and he ended up getting the role, or he was really close to getting the role, if he didn't have other things going on. Because Tom Selleck was a big deal back then. I mean, he's still a pretty big deal now to a lot of people, but he was a really big deal back then. I did also hear that George Lucas wanted to maybe cast a unknown in the role, but they definitely weren't going to do that with Tom Selleck if they did that.
yeah. But hey, I'm glad they settled on Harrison Ford, because
I think Harrison Ford is too. I mean, that's his one of his, if not his favorite character he's played. I mean, Indiana Jones, aside from Indiana Jones and Han Solo are his two most famous roles. So he
even
really
if he didn't like one of them, but
yeah, he really doesn't like Han Solo, but he loves Indiana Jones, which is why he's doing a fifth one right now.
But talking about Sean Connery as Indy's dad, let's go and move on to Last Crusade real quick, because I do want to talk about that. Because like I said, I just watched it, but the dynamic between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford in that movie is amazing. I think that's one of the things that makes that movie. Like,
yeah, it was actually so from what I heard, originally, you know, the basically the idea that Sean Connery as the father there, the kind of like his the way he portrayed the character, basically. Let me figure out what I'm trying to say. He he's constantly like getting them into trouble, and not constantly aware of his surroundings. He's not exactly the big bad, action hero that you would have thought he would have been. That was actually or from what I heard at least, a decision on Sean Connery's part. He was like, I feel like this would make a much better dynamic for the character, because I think they wanted him to come in and be, a much more rugged, basically kind of a character that Sean Connery had, played previously, like, a bunch of them, I guess, because he was more known for those roles. But he came in, he was like, no, I think I should be a little bit more, not quite an idiot, but, a little bit more on the just getting into trouble kind of a side. And it really does play well, because it like I love Sean Connery in that movie. Like, he is one of, if not my favorite part of that movie. Like, he's funny. He's like, all his scenes with the interactions with Indiana Jones, like, all of it's hilarious. It's just a really fun movie to watch.
Yeah. Like I said, their dynamic is what really makes that movie, and yeah, like, I think the way he portrays that character is also really, really good, because he's kind of the like idiot genius, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, he's kind of dingy, but he's still a genius.
Yeah.
He's the one that did all that research that actually led them to the Holy Grail. Like,
Yeah. It's like he's a very smart guy, but it's probably kind of portrayed in the way of like those people who are like really smart in school but they have no common sense. I feel like that's kind of the way he ended up portraying the characters, like, because he is a smart guy. He's an archaeologist. He's been doing this for years. Like you said, he found the Holy Grail. Like, all his research is what found him the Holy Grail. But he, carries himself in a very, I guess, idiotic way. He's not exactly the smartest when it comes to everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Which he's an archaeologist, but he's not the same kind of archaeologist that Indy is.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's the same kind of archaeologist as Indy is.
Yeah, that's true.
Not quite a real job. So funny thing that I heard today about The Last Crusade, a little behind the scenes thing, was apparently during the blimp scene, where they're in like the cafe or whatever, the dining hall area, something to add when you're watching the movie, apparently neither Sean Connery or Harrison Ford had pants on in that scene.
What?
From what I heard, apparently it was so hot that Sean Connery took his pants off, and not long after that, Harrison Ford did the exact same thing, because it was just so hot filming that scene. I believe it was that scene. There was a scene, and I'm pretty sure it's that one, if I remember correctly. But it's just kind of like one of those fun little details where it's like, you'd never know watching the movie. They don't do that. But they just don't have any pants on.
Okay, then.
Now you could be thinking about that when you watch that scene. You can be like, they have no pants on.
I didn't know where you were going with that, but that's not where I thought you were going.
Yeah, I thought I could probably catch you off guard with that one. Even if you had heard that before, I mean, I probably still would have caught you off guard with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fun little thing.
I love
So
Easter eggs like that or stuff like that in movies. Like
yeah, like the
it's just
little tidbits behind the scenes. Yeah,
that like, you'd never know watching an actual movie.
yeah. Real quick, I do want to mention this one last thing before, since it sounds like we're kind of wrapping up on the Last Crusade and probably moving into the Crystal Skull. Before we get off of the original trilogy, I do want to make this comment. Harrison Ford had a real hard time with the first two indie movies, you know? Which it sounds like he might not have had such a hard time with the Last Crusade, which is good. But what I mean by that is, in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, they have that infamous scene where, you know, he shoots the guy and they're supposed to have some long fight and he just shoots him
because he had food poisoning. Yeah.
because yeah, he was you know, real sick and just still getting over it. Well, apparently he was also really sick. Well, no. He wasn't really sick. He had a dislocated disc, I think, in his spine or something like that during filming of Temple of Doom. They said apparently, like, the amount of pain he was in and all, whenever he had a scene that he was sweating, the costume department had, like, didn't have to do anything because that was all, like, real sweat. So
He was like sweating through that entire movie.
yeah. So I guess it was a good thing they shot it in a hot environment or a place that was, you know, seen as a hot environment. But like, yeah, apparently like they had to stop. They almost had to completely stop filming. What they ended up doing, from what I heard, was his stunt actor or stunt double did a lot of scenes. Like they did a lot of the action scenes while Harrison Ford was out getting like surgeries and stuff like that. And they just like edited them in with like some close-ups of Harrison Ford after the fact, just so that they could keep filming. But yeah, there was like that happened. I think right, like the first couple days of filming, Steven Spielberg like either sprained or broke his ankle or something. I think he sprained his ankle or something like that. And there were some other different things that ended up happening. I think a bunch of the crew got sick first couple days of filming, and so a lot of people were like, "Yep, it was a cursed film," you know.
I mean, that's kind of a fitting thing for that movie, though.
Yeah, it really is.
It's
It's just the way that it. And hey, even the I think if I remember right, I think this was also the time that it was George Lucas was going through a divorce, and I think Steven Spielberg had just like either ended a really long relationship, or I don't think it wasn't a divorce, but anyways, so they had some cursed stuff going on beforehand. So there just wasn't a whole lot of good stuff going around this movie, and it was poorly received at the time. So it just everything around the movie just wasn't good.
Mm.
But it's a pretty decent. It was a pretty decent movie.
I don't think it was as poorly received as the fourth one, though.
No.
Yeah, so
it's kind of hard.
Let's talk about that one real quick, because I think you and I pretty much have the same opinion about it.
I might surprise you with my opinion on it.
So
not really, but I don't think it's okay. There's portions of it that aren't bad, but the indie. Okay, so you have the nuclear refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. And okay, so here's the thing. I was thinking about it earlier today. I really think that the premise of the movie could have been done well. Like, they could have made it a good movie, even with bringing in, like, aliens and stuff like that. Like, I think it still could have been done well. I just don't think that they did. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. And there are a lot of things that I know that there are problems with the movie, and it's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie, and there's a reason I've only seen it so many times. But, like, I don't think that, because here's the thing. Within Indiana Jones, they brought up topics like, a god with the Ark of the Covenant, and a with like a spirit world, basically with all the voodoo and all that stuff in Temple of Doom, and then you have the Last Crusade with the Holy Grail, and so that's like a myth of sorts, and then they bring in aliens. So it's like, okay, is it really that much of a step to bring in aliens? No. Did they do it good? Also, no. But I don't
So
think the premise is as far fetched as people make it sound.
Okay, but the thing about it though is like, well, yes, it's not real. Like, yes, you've established that there's all this like magic is real in the Indiana Jones universe and stuff, but everything from the first three is still spiritual.
Yeah. What they probably should have done if they wanted to introduce aliens was probably dive into aliens within the realm of like maybe the Egyptian culture. And what I say that is because, a lot of there's the conspiracy theories like aliens built the pyramids. And it's like they could have dived into that because okay, like Ark of the Covenant, Holy Grail. Those are two like common, like Ark of the Covenant is a mythological real world item. So is the Holy Grail. And I don't know, Temple Doom didn't have anything. But, within the realm, it's things that like we've heard of, we know of. They were, supposed real things at some point in history. There was never anything of a crystal skull like this, at least, in history. This is not a historical item, which is what Indiana Jones is supposed to be, and it kind of loosely bangs around with history. Whereas if they maybe did it within like, okay, maybe they were looking into like, the Egyptians and the way that they communicated with aliens and they built the pyramids, they could have done that and maybe still dived into aliens without making a movie that was completely out of left field. I don't know. It's one of the two.
Or if you want to get into like real world myths or whatever, do something with Atlantis or something like that. There are things you can do that yeah. But I think that's one of the big things about the Crystal Skull is it's a decent action movie, but it's not. It doesn't really feel like the first three do.
Yeah, I'll say it very much feels the same way. I feel very much the same way about it that I do about Pirates of the Caribbean 4th iteration.
Yeah.
The 4th movie has good moments. Overall, is not good. Actually, like one of my favorite scenes.
Isn't the plot very similar in both of those?
Well, I guess they look at the Holy Grail, so that'd be closer to Last Crusade.
Well, no, so it's the Fountain of Youth, isn't it? In Pirates
Fountain
5.
of Youth, yeah, you're right. But also, like one of my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean scenes is that opening scene where Captain Jack is escaping, at the beginning of the 4th Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like I absolutely love that scene, and then it goes downhill from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You also mentioned the nuclear refrigerator a minute ago. Have you heard the theory that like
he's dead?
The rest of the the rest of the movie is just him hallucinating from the radiation?
Yeah. I've heard that. Also, yeah, like I said, I heard the ones where like, he died and this is I don't know, I guess like how his conscious like or maybe it's just I'm combining the two theories. Either way, I don't necessarily buy it. I feel like they just made a bad movie, but I feel like it's a really good way to just be like, we don't like this. Let's figure a way to retcon it.
Hmm.
I do feel like that's probably one of the turning points in the movie where it's like, what am I watching? This
So,
makes no sense now.
but that was very much in the same vein as a lot of the like you know in the past like 20 years there's been a lot of sequels and reboots of
Hmm.
movies from the
Yeah.
80s, and
Hmm.
that was just another one of them, and um pretty much all of them suck.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is they and even nowadays what they're doing is they take a franchise or they take something that people loved and they're like, hey, we're going to capitalize on that because people loved it, and then they bring in a lot of nostalgia, a lot of just different things, and sometimes they can make a decent movie. But like you said a couple weeks ago when you were talking about, them remaking older movies and remaking all the live action Disney movies, it's like, why would you watch a pretty decent movie when you can watch the original? And like, it still even comes down to that, like, you know,
Because like the
if the, even though it continues the adventure for Indiana Jones, it's like, why would I watch that when I still can go back and watch the original three? Like,
mm,
you're not really enhancing anything from them. You're just, I mean, you made a decent action movie, like you said, it's a decent action movie, but the story doesn't fit in with the rest of the, with Indiana Jones. It's like, why would I watch this when I can watch that?
mhm. Now
Well, do you have anything else? Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, let's. On that note, I kind of want to talk about Indiana Jones 5 because it hasn't come out
Hmm.
yet. Seen the
When
trailers.
is the when is the release date?
June 30th. We will talk about
June
it
30th.
in July. I think it's slated for the second Monday in July.
Okay.
What's
Okay.
the date on that? Um, July 10th. So yeah, if you
Okay.
wanna if you wanna hear us talk about Indiana Jones 5 after it comes out, yeah, come back July 10th. But just judging by the trailer, this movie looks terrible.
Yeah. It's not like it's exact. I mean, yeah, the trailer wasn't exactly. It really seems like, hey, we're making another Indiana Jones movie. Watch it. Like that's basically the way it looks.
Also, they're going the time travel route too.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually where my theory lies. Because it's I guess it's theorized that the Dial of Destiny is supposed to be a time traveling device.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've heard it said that it's possible, or okay, I find it very likely that a lot of the deep fake stuff that they're doing is this is what happened in the past, not this is what's like we're not time traveling as type of a thing. And they're just really showing off their deep fake technology. My theory is that somehow or another, um, they go with through the time traveling and all this. I'm not entirely sure how they go about doing it, but essentially they reboot the franchise through time travel because Harrison Ford is too old to play Indiana Jones now, but they can still capitalize off of the name.
Oh
It'd be
gosh.
horrible. It'd be horrible, but I'm just gonna go ahead and call it now because if I'm wrong, thank God. I mean, but they already are making an Indiana Jones 5, and nobody asked for that. So
Nobody asked for a fourth one.
honestly, exactly. But what I'm saying is like this is one of those things where it's like don't like it's really kind of out of left field to say they're going to use the time travel to, explore maybe rebooting the Indiana Jones franchise in some way, shape, or form. But it's like, is that really out of the realm of possibility? Like, because they could just reboot it anyways. Like, that wouldn't even be out of the realm of possibility. But I feel like they might try and go about it this way. I don't feel strongly about this. I'm going to say that. It's more like a funny, goofy, like, hey, they're doing time travel. They're doing this, that. Like, maybe they kill off Indiana Jones as Harrison Ford and something else happens. Like, I don't know. They figure out a way to...
I also hope
it's not a serious theory, but it's just kind of a, hey, what if this happened kind of a thing. Like,
I also have a feeling that it's going to be very corny, the way they do it. Because, you saw in the trailers that one scene where Indy and whatever, the Marcus Brody's daughter, whatever her name is, they're pushing the boulder that, from the boulder scene in Raiders.
Yeah.
And like that scene like that, I'm just like, gosh, if that's the kind of stuff they're doing with the time travel stuff, this movie's going to be so corny. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it is kind of it's one of those things where like, okay, so when they came out with some of this new stuff with the Star Wars, right? Mark Hamill had a lot to say about the way that they took Luke. He was not happy at all with the way that they took Luke. But he played the character because he is the character, and that's just kind of how it is. I do wonder, like, I haven't looked into it, but like, how does Harrison Ford feel about the movie, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? How does he feel about this movie, Because, like, he loves this character, and you think that he wouldn't want it to be, done wrong. But like you said, like, it does seem like it's probably going to be a little bit more of a, hey, we're really just making an Indiana Jones movie because we can, and every other studio is making a movie that, in a franchise that's been around forever, so let's just do the same. That's literally what it looks like.
And also, there's also the fact of, I don't trust Disney Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
With live action movies, I don't trust Disney Lucasfilm.
Well, and see, that's the thing, is like, so the reason that it's so, like, I semi-trust what's going on at Lucasfilm when it comes to Star Wars is because of who's seen over this. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are
over the TV shows, not the movies.
They didn't put them over the movies?
No.
Does Lucas not know how to make money? Apparently not. Okay.
No,
I wasn't.
Kathleen Kennedy's still over the movies. So
I knew she. I knew that she's over Lucasfilm, but I thought they had promoted Dave Favreau. Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
You got the name backwards. You got the name backwards. John Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Yeah. Dave Filoni. I was, yeah. Anyways. But yeah, so, it's one of those things where, like, I trust what they're making because they're making it, and they are going to do right by it. But Indiana Jones isn't overseen by someone who, is like that. It, like you said, it's being made by Disney and Lucasfilm, who have shown they just can't do it. Like, Disney owning Lucasfilms and the way that Lucasfilm has been directed and what they've been putting out has been garbage.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the best thing that they put out I guess they did put out Rogue One, which Rogue One was is one of, if maybe not the best Star Wars movie, just with the combination of an amazing story and amazing CGI. But outside of that, the best thing that they did with Lucasfilm was the Force Awakens, and that wasn't even original. And I don't think that. I mean, what they only are doing Indiana Jones and Star Wars right now, right? They're not doing anything else, right?
I think so, yeah. But
yeah. So their track record's not great, and I mean, even Lucasfilm's track record isn't amazing. I mean, as a standalone, when Lucas owned it, so it kind of just depended on who he got.
Yeah, don't forget that before Disney bought Lucasfilm, they had made the prequels and Crystal Skull within the span of a couple of years.
Yes, but see, the thing is, the prequels are redeemable. The Crystal Skull is not.
True. But you're talking about like Disney, the way they've even kind of ruined Marvel too.
I think that they have, and most of it just has to do with the fact that they've had so much success with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're necessarily telling stories.
I don't know how much oversight like the actual Disney Corporation has over Marvel Studios, but just the fact that they own them, they can just come in at any time and say, "No, we need to do it this way." So I don't know if they actually have, but
yeah. Well, okay. So the biggest thing is that it's not all Disney cares about is if they're making money or not. And as long as Marvel is making money, they're going to greenlight everything. Well, I don't know if that necessarily puts pressure on Marvel to make more, or if Marvel is just pushing it out and Disney's just like, hey, you're doing good, we're not going to stop it. But because of the success that Marvel's had, they just think that they can do whatever they want. And now they're in this, state now where, one, there's way too much content, which sounds like that shouldn't be a problem. Like, that sounds like, that shouldn't ever be a bad thing. But it is, because there's way too much content, but it's not all good. Which means that if you want to keep up with what's going on now, you have to watch some crappy content to understand what's going on.
And they're not making it all, like... At this point now, you can't just go in and watch a Marvel movie without having, 20 plus
movies. You gotta watch like 15
and
TV shows.
Yeah. You have to have so much background to go into a Marvel movie now. It's...
Yeah. Too much to watch that you don't want to have to watch. You know? And I think that's the downfall that Marvel has. And I think that's really just the downfall that a lot of these, like, okay, Disney owns Marvel. So they're like, hey, we want to make money. So we're greenlighting all these movies because, hey, they've been making us money. Well, Disney owns Lucasfilms, and they've been making a bunch of Star Wars movies in recent years, and a bunch of Star Wars content to make money off of. Well, what's another, famous IP that they have? Indiana Jones. Why wouldn't they make another one off of that? But it's not about the actual movie. They don't care. They're like, hey, it's a famous, it's a famous character. People love the Indiana Jones movies, the trilogy. Why not tack on another one? Because if nothing else, people will go watch it, and we'll make a lot of money no matter how the reviews are. And
one thing I will say is, for Crystal Skull, is at least it was still directed by Spielberg.
Yeah. Who's directing this one?
James Mangold. Never heard of him.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know who that is. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is over Lucasfilm, correct?
Yes.
Or just Star Wars? Okay. I was thinking she was over Lucasfilm. I know that she's apparently a really big name in Hollywood, and like, there's a
She
reason she is over Lucasfilm. But I also have a feeling that I know that there's been a lot of fan backlash to her from Star Wars fans, with the way that she's been directing the franchise. Um, and I don't think she's close to losing her job. Like, just because as much as the fans should be, the a really big factor in everything, we're not. Like, yes, if you make a bad movie and we hate it, you don't make as much money off of it as you would if we loved it. But at this point in time, I feel like because they have so many popular, like Star Wars is a popular franchise. Star Wars, if they release a Star Wars movie, is going to make a lot of money off of it, good or bad, because Star Wars fans are going to want to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the same thing with Indiana Jones. So I don't think that she's necessarily on the brink of getting fired. I think a lot of people say that she probably should get fired. I don't know necessarily she should get fired. I think she should start putting maybe more people who know more what they're doing when it comes to these franchises in charge, like Dave Filoni. And, make Dave Filoni the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. Let him be over everything. Let him oversee everything.
Well,
You oversee him, but let him oversee everything, and then you just get credit for it. And you don't have to, have all the headache of making all those decisions that nobody likes.
so I used to work with a guy who actually said something about that. So he said something about, or he's talking about Dave Filoni. He said basically, when Dave Filoni is talking about Star Wars, when he says something, take it with as much like, basically, whenever Dave Filoni says something about Star Wars, take it with take it as much as canon as as if it came from George Lucas himself.
Yes. Oh, I 100% agree with that.
Because Dave Filoni, aside from George Lucas, Dave Filoni probably understands Star Wars the most.
Yes. Dave Filoni is a humongous nerd when it comes to Star Wars. He just happens to have one of the best jobs with that character set in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets to run one of his childhood, probably his childhood dream job, canonize things in Star Wars. Make shows off of out of a trilogy, out of a franchise that you love.
And that's why Jon Favreau is also really good with Star Wars stuff too, because he was he's also a huge Star Wars nerd.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like you said, Jon Favreau is as close to like George Lucas as far as like knowledge on Star Wars and understanding the universe, which is a really big key of it. As you can get without being George Lucas. Which is why he needs to, if he's not in a more prominent role in charge of like stuff, he needs to basically be over everything. If they do that and they let him, start dealing with stuff, making decisions, making green lighting movies and stuff like that, and being like, hey, we need to make this movie. No, we don't need to make that movie. Or hey, this script needs to be scrapped because it's not Star Wars. Then hey, we need to have an actual plan when we make this trilogy. Any number of those things. Like,
and that's another thing that's another thing that annoys me too. They greenlit another Star Wars trilogy about Rey. Like, they can't even give us that, because the best thing about the sequel trilogy was that it was over. And they can't even give us that.
Now wait, is this a new thing that they're doing?
Yes. They
Huh.
greenlit
That's kind
another
of
3 movies with Ray.
that's kind of surprising because I heard that the experience that Daisy Ridley and John Boyega both had within Star Wars and some of the like filming stuff that they ended up doing, like they had a really bad experience, and like as much as they love Star Wars and loved the
Oh,
characters, they were like John Boyega I think said he didn't want to come back
I feel
as
bad for John Boyega the way they treated him. I feel bad for him because
yeah. So it's like
they were hyping him up to be one of the main characters of that trilogy, and they just kind of like in the second 2 movies they just threw him aside and didn't really do anything with him.
yeah, and so
Finn was
it
an awesome character. They wasted him. They completely
he
wasted
was
that character.
he was it. Here's the thing. I don't. If they make a trilogy about Rey, unlike the fact that they already did, but if they make another trilogy about Rey and they do it well, sure. Maybe I can give that her character, you know, in my mind a more canonized spot.
Mm.
But that doesn't change the prequels or the sequels. They're still trash. Like, without diving too much into it, because we're gonna talk about these movies in a couple months.
November,
Like,
December, and January.
yeah, they're just bad movies. Not even like bad Star Wars movies. No, just bad movies. Because they're like we've talked about this before with we're going through the prequels right now, and yeah, the prequels have some bad acting in them. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot wrong with the prequels, but the prequels have a point. They're telling a cohesive story. The sequels aren't even doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just throwing around lightsabers. They have stormtroopers in them, and they talk about this thing called the Force that they don't really seem to understand how it works. And it's like, did you even like okay? I heard at one point that apparently Kathleen Kennedy was wanting to hire on a bunch of people who had never seen Star Wars before to help, make some of the Star Wars content. Her reasoning behind it was apparently because she wanted to have fresh eyes on it. And that's fair. You can do that. As long as you have some people in the room that can tell you whether or not you can do that or not do that. Like, well, if you don't understand the universe, just admit it.
I saw a meme about talking about the sequel trilogy, and it was just like, sum up the sequel trilogy with a single picture, and it was the Han Solo from Force Awakens saying,
"The Force works."
Yeah,
I love that line, and it's so true. Like, I mean, it sounds like they had their conversations with Dave Filoni accidentally leak into the script. Like, I don't think that I'm not entirely sure when he started doing a lot more stuff there, but I mean, he definitely had no part whatsoever in those movies, and it is
Dave Filoni was
bad...
there Dave Filoni was there before the Disney acquisition.
Well, yeah, because he did the stuff with the Clone Wars, right?
He was over the Clone Wars, and he was over Rebels, and yeah.
Rebels came out before Disney. Well, no,
Rebels was Disney, but
okay. I knew Clone Wars was beforehand, and then Disney
Clone Wars was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. But Sam's thing is like, go ahead.
I just think it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool that I never really got into it. I know it's a really good show. I just didn't really watch it growing up. But Dave Filoni was also very heavily involved with Avatar: The Last Airbender, which, looking back at it, that makes sense.
That's a one of within the anime realm, the movie or series, sorry, that Sarah really wants me to get into. There's just too much with
Like I said,
all that to watch.
It's not really anime. It's anime inspired, but see, that's one of the things like that. I know that that's a really good show, but I didn't get in. I didn't watch it when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
I just find it hard to get into now.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like a while back we were talking about Pokemon and how it's like, you know, for us to get into Pokemon now, like we were saying, like, oh, what if we talked about Pokemon on here? It would take a lot because there's so much to it. There's so much to, you know, Avatar. There's so much to, you know, the different things with a lot of the anime stuff. It's just like we didn't grow up with it. It's hard to get into it now. You know, it's not that it's not good, and we're not trying to discount it. We're just, you know, we have other things that we grew up with and other things that we're fans of, and you know, that's what we're going to talk about. You know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we've gotten way off topic from. Well, at least we have stuck with Lucasfilm, but we've gotten way off topic from Indiana Jones.
I was about to say. I guess final thoughts is for me at least, like you were saying, we're gonna. I mean, we're talking about it on the podcast, so I'm gonna go see the Dial of Destiny. Like I gotta be able to. I gotta see it to be able to talk about it. But I'm not very hopeful for it, and it very much like okay. You talked about how you thought it's, you know, it's gonna kind of, it seems like it's gonna be a little like it's not gonna take itself seriously, basically, like it's gonna be a little bit cartoony or whatever, in the way that they go about making the movie. It felt a lot like when I watched the trailer, it really took me back to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in the way that it seems like the storyline's gonna play out, and we all saw how that movie, you know, ended up. So I'm just not really hopeful for it. I really feel like it's a cash grab, and I hate it. Hate that fact. But I mean, I'm gonna go pay to see it. So where does that leave us? Content has to continue.
Yeah. So. Well, for my final thoughts, for the first three are amazing movies. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. You can ignore Crystal Skull and
there's a fourth one?
Apparently. And Dial of Destiny is going to be trash. Other than that, that's it.
Well, the good news is you know, us saying this now about it being trash, if it turns out to be really good, then
I'll be surprised.
Amazing.
I'll be pleasantly surprised.
That's amazing. And we're still talking about it in the podcast, so we can call back to this one moment and be like, man, look how stupid we look. But you know what? It really wasn't that stupid because they have a track record.
That's the thing. Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's going to be a good movie.
This is one of those. We're hoping and praying that we're wrong.
But I know
we just
I'm not going to be.
Exactly. It's a sad truth, but
yeah.
But we can hope. So
yeah.
Alrighty, David. You ready to head on to a new segment? Not new segment, but another segment.
What's new with you?
What's new with you? Got it. I didn't know if you had something to rant about, but let's move on to what's new.
I think we've both been kind of ranting a little bit here. So you got a little bonus rant.
I was about to say I was going a little hard there for a second.
Yeah. So yeah.
Alrighty.
Let's move on to what's new with you.
What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? Yeah.
So Wesley, I know we just spent the weekend together, but what's new with you?
That was this weekend, wasn't it? Oh man, it's been a long past 2 days. It's only Tuesday, David. Oh
Yep.
man, this is gonna be a long week. Well, basically the newest things with me is that yeah, we went to the lake this weekend for our annual cousins trip, which always is a fun time.
But it also always isn't long enough.
No, it's not. I know they're talking about it talking about we're down there, saying something about maybe looking into maybe next year starting it on Thursday, which I would completely be on
two
board
full
with.
days. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it still wouldn't be long enough, but it would be better, you know. And
Yeah.
maybe give like we got some family that has to drive a little bit farther. Give them a little bit more incentive to come down, and they can stay for a longer period of time, you know.
Yeah. But
But
basically, what we're talking about, in case I know most of y'all listening are probably either know us or are related to us. Well, if you're related to us, you know us. But anyway,
well, not everyone.
yeah,
They may not know
but
us,
true,
and they may not
but
be related
just
to
just in
us.
case you don't know us personally, every year, Wesley, first of all, Wesley and I are cousins. We
What?
have mentioned that before, but we
Oh
don't
yeah,
really
we
mention
have.
it that
Okay,
often.
I remember now.
Yeah, we have mentioned that before, but don't really mention that often. But
I try to
all of our
suppress that memory.
yeah, but all of our other cousins and stuff, we grew up really close. There are 12 of us in total, and so every year we try to go on a go do something together, just to try to say, as we're getting older, it's kind of hard to find time to actually spend time with each other. So we make time once a year.
From what
And so
I've heard, from when I heard, most families aren't as closely knit as we are, but the cousins, it's about what 12, 14, how many is it now? I guess
If you
including the spouses.
if you include spouses, it's 14.
So we got 14 of us, and we're pretty close. For the 12 of us that grew up together, we hung out like crazy. I mean, obviously, me and David are real close, not just in age, but in we're pretty close, and that kind of spills over to the rest of the family. So, from what I've heard, most families aren't like this. I don't know that for a fact, but it's one of those things where if you can have a close group of friends and they're also your family, like it's kind of a bonus, or maybe not. I'm not entirely sure because you may not want to be close to your family. Teach their own.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically a little bit of background on that. So that was this past weekend. We spent a weekend up at the lake all together and had a good time.
Yeah. The girls were calling it camping, but we were sleeping in a cabin. So, or not even a cabin. It was just it was a building. It wasn't exactly a cabin. Got air conditioning. It's not a camping trip.
Yeah, we had air conditioning and running water. It wasn't a camping trip.
Yeah, it's not a camping trip. I mean, we may not have showered, but that was more just the quality of shower that we had, and the fact that there was only one.
Yeah, but
one shower, and what we had 10 people there this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, not exactly good odds. So. But yeah, that was one of the first things I did when I got home was immediately went to the shower, and it was nice. It was nice getting in the shower. That's the thing. It's like it's nice going camping or doing something like this, and but like when you can get back to normal life and you get in that shower and after your shower you're sitting around all clean in a clean space. It's a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's the thing. I did that like. Well, whenever I do something or go somewhere like this where I know I'm not going to be able to take a shower for a few days, I always make sure to take a shower right before and right after.
Yep. I took one literally right before because I had gotten off work, so I came home and I showered, and literally as soon as I got out of the shower, I got dressed and we drove. It wasn't intentional, it was just I needed a shower because I had been working, so. And that's probably not a bad idea, though, to shower right before and right after, just to stay as clean as long as possible. I was feeling pretty icky that night, though. That first night.
Yeah.
Which, that is one thing to think about. If we extend the weekend, we'll be icky longer. But I think we'll be okay.
Oh, we can, well, we can figure out a shower schedule if we do that, but...
Yeah, it'd be fine. It'd be fine. We would survive. But all in all, yeah, fun weekend. So I guess there's not that much development with me because, you know, besides that, I've played a little bit more Fallout, but it's not really that much. It's not that interesting if I every single week come to you and say I played 2 minutes more Fallout. So I will not discuss any of that with you. What have you been up to? Have you been up to anything new since I guess Sunday? When I saw you last, it's Tuesday. I doubt it. I mean, much of interest.
Not really anything.
Yeah.
Else, but just for
I will say,
just for sake of something, having something. Well, yeah, sorry, you go ahead first because I was changing the subject. You go ahead first.
I was just gonna say I found out this weekend that I knew I wasn't great at Mario Kart, but I'm really bad at Mario Kart. Also, I have a lot of bad luck with it too.
Everyone does. You constantly get hit by stuff.
That's very true. I obviously pay attention when I play a lot more, so there's that. I'm biased. But man, it just seems like when I get hit, I just can't stop getting hit. And it's like, you're in first, and then you get hit with like a blue shell or a red shell, and then all of a sudden you get hit with like 50 other different things, and the next thing you know, you go from first, and now you're in like 10th or 11th place. And that was all like right before the finish line, and you're on your third lap, and you're like, what happened? That's happened to me a lot recently. Because I've been playing it since I got home. I've been playing on the Switch since I got home, and it's just not been going well. I'll do really well for the first 2 laps and halfway through the third, and then just something will happen that I just don't know how to stop. Like, I'm working on it. I'm working on getting better at Mario Kart because we didn't do it this weekend because we didn't have the people for it. But in the past, we have played Mario Kart championships, and I have won I've won one. Now I think the thing is, I think one time it was played and I wasn't a part of it,
But we've never.
I think I wasn't a part of it.
We've never done Mario.
We've never
Kart
done the full
8 tournament. Either.
We've never done. This was all on the Wii. Now, the thing is, Ethan has won it before, and I have won it before, but I don't think that we've ever played each other 1-on-1. And I don't think that we played in the same tournament when we both won. So I think the time he won, I wasn't playing. I think the time I won, I know he wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, we still have to face off. But I take a lot of pride in my Mario Kart skills. But that was all on the Wii. Mario Kart 8 is Mario Kart on the Switch is a completely different story. And it is one that I am trying to rewrite fast because, I take a lot of pride in this. So I'm not doing well. I got to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting old, David. I don't like this.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, you're right. I'll get more time as time goes on. I'll get more time to play video games, and then I'll get back into the swing of things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I can let you change the subject now. That was all I had to say.
Well, what I was gonna say is talking about newer movies and talking about the trailer for Indiana Jones 5 reminded me of the trailer for the new Flash movie, which we were also talking about in the podcast coming up in like 2 weeks.
I was say I need to take a look at the schedule and see what we're talking about, especially since we switched some things up here, just so I can make sure I'm prepared. Sometimes I don't look at the thing until maybe the day before or something, and I'm like, uh-oh, now I got to figure out, if it's a movie, I got to watch it that evening or something, but yeah. Well, now, is this one being who's directing this one?
I don't know who the director on this one was. Hold up.
I know James Gunn went over to DC, but I didn't think he was going over
No,
for
no.
like
Pretty much everything that's coming out this year was filmed pre James Gunn takeover.
Okay.
What
What all are they coming out with? I know they're coming out with this, but what else are they coming out with?
Blue Beetle and an Aquaman sequel.
You mentioned Blue Beetle a while back that they were coming out with Blue Beetle. I still haven't really seen anything on that. They're not really.
It's very quiet, but okay. So we'll get into that in a second too. But I do want to talk about the Flash real quick.
It may have
it's coming out soon, but
yeah.
What's up?
I was gonna say it might be part of it might be because they're waiting to see how the Flashpoint movie does before they really hone into publicizing the Blue Beetle stuff. Because I mean, like, okay, Aquaman has Jason Momoa, so whenever they start putting that stuff out, you know, people are gonna eat it up because they love Jason Momoa, even if the first Aquaman wasn't that great. They love Jason Momoa, so they're gonna eat it up. But Blue Beetle, they're probably. I mean, is there a casting list? Like, do they have someone in there? Is like a no-name actor that they're bringing into it? Like, if they're bringing a no-name actor into it, then it's like, well, we don't have a name recognition with the actor. We don't have a name recognition with the character. Maybe we'll do a quick little cameo in or something in credit scene or something in Flashpoint. Hope Flashpoint does really well. Hype up Blue Beetle, and then kind of go from there. I don't know. Just thoughts.
Yeah, I don't recognize the actor who's playing Blue Beetle in the movie, but yeah, the Flash. On that, it's really cool to bring back Michael Keaton. Other than that, again, I am going to be surprised if this movie is good.
I am going to make a very not lame, as the opposite of whatever a bold prediction is. This is a not bold prediction. Michael Keaton is going to be the only good part about that movie.
Yep,
I just hope that they don't ruin the character of Michael Keaton's Batman. I don't think that you can, because I think that, you know, I know I can detach, you know, whatever this is gonna end up being from Michael Keaton's Batman. Like, that's easy for me to do. I don't have to think anything of this when I watch Michael Keaton's Batman. But I just don't. They're so good. You don't need to tarnish the you know, Michael Keaton Batman movies by trying to bring it back because you want nostalgia or a cash grab or anything like that. Now, I had a thought. Where did it go? It ran off. It's gone forever. Until I think of it again.
Michael Keaton is probably, well, of the live action Batman movies, Michael Keaton is probably one of my favorite actors who's played Batman, just for the nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, the Michael Keaton Batman movies were still corny. They were still really comic booky, but it's the nostalgia.
I'd probably say for my own list of the Batman movies, live action wise, I would probably say The Dark Knight and then Batman. Like, Michael Keaton's Batman would be number 2 on my list.
I don't know if I'd put it up that high, but
I honestly don't care that much for the other two in the Dark Knight trilogy, and of the the 2 Michael Keaton Batmans, and then the other 3 that they did, the first one's the best. So that's personally my list. My list, obviously. I think Dark Knight is, you know, just an amazing Batman movie, but I mean, it might have to go back to nostalgia. I mean, that might be what it is. But I honestly, like, as good as Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises are, I've never really like. I don't go out of my way to watch either one of those. Like, they're good movies, but they're not. I don't want to say they're not great movies. They're just not. If I'm gonna watch Batman, they probably won't be the first ones that I go to.
Now, The Batman, the 2022 movie.
I haven't seen it. So I can't add that one to the list.
You
but
need to watch it, because that is one of the best Batman movies. And I know it gets a lot. It gets a lot of like, a lot of people hate on it because of Robert Pattinson. But
I think
you have to watch the movie. Like, you have to.
Talking about that. I honestly, not even seeing the movie and understanding the backlash that Robert Pattinson gets, with like the Twilight and all that stuff, I think that Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / The Dark Knight is an amazing casting. Like, not even having seen him in the movie, knowing what they're going for, and like the fact that this is like supposed to be Batman, I think, maybe year 3 at most, somewhere in there. Like, he's dealing with a lot. He's younger. He's a little bit more angsty. He's, he hasn't been the Dark Knight for a long period of time. He's figuring this out. And, then you also have the side of him that's Bruce Wayne, I think all those aspects, like, I really do think that the cat, like, as much as people, like, will hate on it and have and are and will, I think I really do think that's an amazing casting. As off the wall as it was when it originally came out, it was one of those, like, wait, who did you cast as Batman? But, like, as you think about it a little bit more, and even I've seen, like, promotionals and all, the trailers for the movie. Like, I've seen that, so I've seen him in the role in that aspect. He just seems like he really fits the part. That is one that's on the list, and when I say that The Dark Knight is number 1 and then Batman is number 2, that's without having seen that. So, I do want to make that disclaimer. It may get bumped around a little bit, but without having seen that.
One thing I also really like about that movie too is it portrays. I honestly really like the portrayal of Bruce Wayne in that movie because, like, at this point in his, like, career as Batman, he does not care about being Bruce Wayne anymore. Like, he literally has just stopped being pretty much stopped being Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Like there's a plot point thing where he has to pretty much go like undercover, so he goes out as Bruce Wayne to investigate some stuff, and like there's some like news and stuff talking about that, like, first time they've seen Bruce Wayne in like 6 months or something.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is,
but that's the thing, because in the comics, he is Batman. Bruce Wayne is the facade he puts on.
That's the thing is, like, it's not the mask that he wears as Batman. It's the mask he wears to be, the billionaire playboy that, he's supposed to be, as Bruce Wayne. Well, now what? Sounds like the conversation's kind of just dropped off.
Here's another thing that I was thinking about, actually earlier today, that I kind of want to know your opinion on. I know you haven't seen the Batman, but have you seen all the others? Or most of the other Batman movies? Okay. I've seen
the rest of them, yeah. Besides, like, the new stuff, like, I didn't see Batman v Superman or anything like that, but...
You're not missing much. But,
yeah. I've been told that many times, which is why I haven't seen it.
You saw Godzilla vs. Kong, which is Batman v Superman, but better.
Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you is there a Batman villain that you would like to see done in live action, or done well in live action? Because they've done several in live action before, but a lot of them have been very corny and very like
Mm-hmm.
cheesy. But is there
Yeah.
like, can you think of a Batman villain that hasn't been done well in live action that you would love to see in live action?
Well, they've done obviously the Joker. You can't do Batman without the Joker, so they've done that plenty of times. They did Bane, which I mean, as far as live action goes, I feel like they probably did Bane about as well as you could do Bane.
I don't mind the Tom Hardy Bane, but I would like a more comic accurate Bane.
Yeah, the hulking out version of it. I would say Bane would probably be one if they could do one better. Let's see, they did the Penguin, which I never really liked that iteration of him. I thought it was still a good movie.
You talking about the Danny DeVito Penguin?
Yeah, I never really cared for it too much, but that was just kind of, he creeped me out. But I don't necessarily know like how they would go about doing it better. Like, what about Penguin would they do to make a better villain?
Well, okay.
Penguin? Like, I thought he did.
So the Penguin,
they made him a penguin.
The Penguin in The Batman, the 2022 movie, is really good. He's not the main villain, but he's in it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the main villain in that is the Riddler, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the thing, is knowing that, I'm not going to say anything about the character of the Riddler needing to be done better than the Jim Carrey one, because as far as I was aware, that they redid that in the newest Batman. Trying to think if there's any other ones that they... I mean, maybe they could do Poison Ivy. They had her in the George Clooney Batman movies. Trying to think. They've done Catwoman enough times. I feel like she's, they've done her enough to not really have to worry about her.
So, I can think of two that I would really like to see. One has never been live action, and one has been in live action but wasn't that good.
Yeah, I was trying to think through the Batman animated series, The Batman, and try and think if I could think of any ones they use. But go ahead and tell me what your two are.
So one of them is Mr. Freeze. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, but
I forgot about that one.
He did a bad job playing Mr. Freeze.
I mean, I don't think that he was a good cast for Mr. Freeze, but
and
I mean, all in all, you can't completely put the fact that it was a bad version of Mr. Freeze on him. The puns were horrible, the script was horrible, but it wasn't a great portrayal.
I would like to see a better live action version of Mr. Freeze, but I also think now this one would also fit well into the Robert Pattinson Batman if they want to do sequels. Mm-hmm. They need to do Hugo Strange.
Oh, yes, kind of that mind manipulation kind of. Mm-hmm. More brains over bronze with how they that would be good,
because that would also fit with what they've already established. Being the Riddler was the same way. The mm-hmm. brains over brawn.
Yeah, I got a pitch for them. I got a pitch for them. What they need to do. So they need to have they make, and this is without having seen, the Batman. So. That disclaimer there. But from everything I've seen of the movie, like you said, this one is much more like Batman's knowledge, Batman's detective skills. All those are so much more tested in this movie. So, it's much more a mind over matter kind of a, he has to be very smart. It doesn't matter as much how physically strong he is in this as, much as he has to figure it all out. You have the same thing if you do it in a sequel with a Hugo Strange, and then follow it up with a trilogy and make, or round it off to a trilogy and bring in your own version of the Joker. I know it's been done over and over again, but have it where it's a much more mind manipulative Joker, where like, you know, Batman may be on the brink of like going insane kind of a deal because of this, and then round off the trilogy with that. And then Batman might even have to go into hiding after that if you break him enough. Because maybe he can, you know, rest easy knowing Gotham's safe, but he's so broken he just can't be Batman anymore.
Yeah, but I also thought of another villain. Deathstroke.
What? Oh, I see. When you were talking about that, Deathstroke came to mind. Deathstroke would be a really good villain to bring in. Who do you think they should get to play him? Because a couple of different iterations of Deathstroke. I don't know which one they would go with, but you know, do you have any thoughts on maybe who they should cast as a Deathstroke?
No one jumps out to me offhand. Like,
yeah.
So I don't really know. Like, you know, there's some actors in roles where you think of them and you're like, ooh, yeah, obviously. But no one jumps out for Deathstroke.
Now let me ask this: how within the lines of the Robert Pattinson Batman, if they were to make it where like Deathstroke maybe wasn't the main villain, but he was like a side villain or maybe like a hitman of sorts that was sent to kill Batman by, you know, the main villain, would you be opposed to that kind of an iteration, or do you want Deathstroke to be more of his own hero, his own villain? Because I mean, no, you know, Deathstroke.
I wouldn't be opposed if they did like to have Deathstroke as the muscle and then have someone else be the brains. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah. The other thing is like, I'm not saying I know a whole lot about Deathstroke. Like, I'm not like you know, complete DC nerd. But from what I know, like, Deathstroke's not some chum. Like, he is you know, he's smart, he's strategic, he's, you know, as well as like, you know, good with martial arts and hand fighting, muscle, all that stuff. So it's like he could be his own villain. But I was wondering, yeah, what your thoughts were as far as him being maybe just the muscle, basically. And like you could even do that pretty well if you did, you know, like a Hugo Strange as the main villain, and you brought in a character like Deathstroke to be just kind of the muscle fighting and you know, have the action there, but then you still have the mind games that, you know, he has to play with Hugo Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be good.
Yeah.
All right, David, we need to send in our pitch.
Yep, this is our official pitch.
This is our official pitch.
Yep. Sending this to DC right now.
I need to go put some pants on.
Wow, you're not on camera.
That was a joke.
Your internet sucks too bad for that.
It's a joke. I'm on a hotspot right now because we still don't have any internet out here for some reason. Anyways, my personal matters aside.
Yeah.
What else you got to say, David? I feel like we've been recording for a while.
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 hours, so...
I thought we might be, because I saw what time it was, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we started pretty close to... it's 8 o'clock now, and I'm pretty sure we started around 6, so...
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should be wrapping it up now, so...
Yep.
Alrighty. Without further... Let's, this episode is all over the place, but let's move on to an outro.
Yep.
Well, explorers, that's all the time we have for today.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Let us know what you thought in the comments down below, or you can DM us on Instagram at DownTheRabbitTrailYT.
And be sure to join us next week on The Trailcast.
Hey guys, real quick, I just want to ask: is there anything you want to hear us talk about? Let us know. Like I said, you can DM us on Instagram at Down the Rabbit Trail YT, or on most of our podcasts on Spotify. We have a comment section. You can leave a comment on YouTube too. Just let us know.
And make sure to subscribe and leave a like on whatever platform you're on. It really helps us out, and I know you've heard this before, but it costs you literally nothing. So that's a very important thing to add. So
yeah. All right, that's all from us. Peace.
Bye-bye.